All right. I am the flatratemaster and we're live. Just a few things. That one a little bit. Now a little bit. All right, that's a little better. A little washed out. How's everybody doing tonight? Carl, by the way, they all use 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. In Europe, 3/8 is actually very uncommon, but they still use imperial for the drive sizes. I think they convert them to metric over in Asia, but it's still SAE. All right, so everybody's getting in the chat. How's everybody doing tonight? Pop out the chat. Toggle. Oh, interesting. No, don't do that. All right, so obviously the topic for tonight is diagnostic tools and techniques and stuff like that. And we're going to go on a little bit of a side rant because, I started a TikTok and it's been interesting to say the least. Short form content's weird. Mike Nelson, good long day, long week. Well, that's, I guess, good. But, I started, a TikTok and I got into, work was good. David, how was your day? And I got into this 7-day creator program where you do 1 minute, over 1 minute TikToks, and they'd push it out to, all these people. And I got like 250,000 views. And after the program ended, I got I got a coupon to buy views. And I know a lot of people here aren't, Renegade, what's up? But on YouTube right now, a bunch of creators are getting hit with, it's being called the invalid traffic bug. And it is YouTube basically demonetizing your content. I'm not being hit by that, but I know several, not personally, but I know several creators that are hit with the invalid traffic bug. And what it is there's nefarious ways to buy views to artificially inflate view numbers, which are it's kind of a stupid thing to do anyway, because YouTube, if, for instance, if I watch my own video, I get a view and then it gets taken away. So, because they realize it's coming from the same IP address. But anyway, or same accounts, because all my Google accounts are linked. But, YouTube is very anti-buy views kind of stuff. And TikTok lets you buy views. Which is stupid. I mean, it's advertising, but still, it's just stupid. So, not doing that. Damn porch monkey, you broke a finger. Was a good laugh, though. I don't know about that. I've broken things, but I never laughed about it. Come to think of it, I've only broken both my arms at the same time, but that was not fun at all. But speaking of TikTok, was what I wanted to get into is, OMG, is there a lot of bad information being spread on that platform. And I'm guessing, I haven't read a lot of the comments or whatever, but just saw a video where a guy was slapping anti-seize on a caliper slide pin and slapping it back in. Misuse of tools, misuse of power probes, just bad information. It's been pretty, and I don't even watch TikTok is the kicker, is I watch it every now and then, but I never Like I never had the app until I started a TikTok. Don't ask me why. Partly was to use up some of the stuff I've done for YouTube that I'd stopped posting shorts on because it was just eroding regular content, I should say, because it was pulling views. Because if I was using newer content, it dropped the views and stuff like that. And I've heard from too many creators where it's just a bad idea. Dad's Diagnostic Specialist, what's going on, Dad's Garage? Fingers hurt for a long time. Yeah, so do toes. Existential D, who's watching at work right now? Renegade, what's going on? Forgot to say hi. But yeah, no, it's been interesting. Because TikTok doesn't have a whole lot of information on them, and it's an automotive channel, so they're serving me up a lot of automotive content, and it's like, oh my, why are you really seriously stop doing this? Gregory Trapman, what's up? An advanced tech for Toyota. I still really new, but I love the job. A lot of tires and brakes. Hey man, you got to start somewhere, and that's where you start. Tires and brakes. Keep taking your training. You'll move up. Toyota is really good at keeping their technicians trained and moving them forward. So Porch Monkey was trying to loosen one of the timing tensioners on a Volkswagen. It went a bit faster than expected. Ow. Ow. ISO, yes, this was your idea. Yes, this was your idea. Existential D, you just got to get all that stuff you need, and then you'll be the brake MF man. No, I mean, Toyota dealerships are pretty good at, once you get certifications through Toyota, your ASEs, they pretty much, you're doing pretty much everything. So from what I've understood, from the Toyota technicians I've worked with. So John Burke still got a finger caught in a tire changer about 7 years ago. Still hurts. I'm guessing when you bend it. Yeah, I bet when I hit it. Yeah. I got a lot of injuries like that. You forget about them until you move the wrong way and they're like, oh yeah, I did that. Apparently the subject has changed to injuries. But since anybody got any questions about diagnostic equipments or techniques or any of that kind of stuff, pop them in the chat. Existential D, what's your take on pressure bleeding? Does it flush the ABS module? Yes and no. I prefer pressure bleeding. First off, does it flush the ABS module completely? No. In order to do that, you have to actuate the valves repeatedly, reflush, multiple times to get all of the old fluid out of the ABS module. Because remember, you got an accumulator in there. You've got valves that have pressure behind them. So no, it does not get all the air out of an ABS module. For instance, when you do a Jeep ABS module, you have to do a scan tool bleed procedure, which sucks. It's basically a two-man job. And, you got to hold the brake. Somebody's got to open the valve. You actuate it. It dumps a bunch of fluid. You got to close it while you're still on the brake. Close the valve. Go repeat. So yeah, no, it's, but yeah, my preferred method is pressure bleeding. It's the best way to get as much fluid out of there as possible. As long as you don't put the pressure too high on the machine, use fresh fluid. It's the best method for bleeding brakes. Me, Blake, yeah, I got a job. Last live stream, it was a title, and the video the day before was the title. So, yes, I have a job. Gordon Freeman agrees with me. Yeah, Toyota dealerships are top tier dealerships to be in if you like to be at dealerships. Yeah, I mean they pretty much are going to get you as high as you can go as quickly as possible to try to bring you up to the top tier. Daniel BC, is it hard to deep in GM bumper harness main connectors? Because I want to add a 2014 rare bumper. Bumper harnesses are pretty easy on those things. They're pretty simple as well. I don't know what special about the 2014 bumper, but I don't think they even had rear backup sensors, so shouldn't be too big of a deal. Or no backup sensor. You didn't specify front or rear, but most bumpers, I mean, other than maybe having to add fog light connectors or something like that, they're not real hard. Most of the time they go right up to the battery junction box, if I remember right. ISO, how essential would you say it is to learn a lab scope to be a diagnostic tech? I haven't gotten competent with them yet. I think it's extremely important. Honestly, am I one of those guys that sits there and goes, you need to use a scope on every diagnostic? Abso-freaking-lutely not. There's more effective methods a lot of the time. Like I'm gonna pick on Eric O, the GM 36, the old ones. You know, the Volkswagen 2.0s that have timing issues. Both those vehicles are common to have timing issues. They have cam actuator PIDs. Look at the cam actuator PIDs. You don't need to scope them. If they're retarded or advanced a bunch, that ain't going to be a cam sensor. It's going to be mechanical timing. You don't need a lab scope to figure that out. Erico did a video where he took the force channel scope to look at all the signals, and I'm like, you can look at the data and know it's out of time. A cam sensor misreporting is not, they don't drop out like that. They drop out like where they don't read. So, but there's times where you definitely need to use a scope. Can Diagnostic's a perfect example. You can easily go chasing resistors and systems, and if you hooked up a scope to it and saw what was going on with the signal, you have a better idea what's going on in the system. ABS sensors, active sensors are a lot harder to diagnose now, because once you go into failsafe, they stop reporting because they're active. Mudhead, do you use mode 6 a lot for diag? Not much anymore. Back in the 2000s era Fords, I used it a lot because, Ford misfire flags were pretty dang hard to set. You basically had to have a dead misfire for those vehicles to set a misfire code. So Mode 6 was really useful for that kind of stuff. Now more it's about why is it not past monitors. For me, Mode 6 comes in really handy for that kind of diagnosis. Like, why hasn't this monitor passed? Why didn't the O2 sensor, monitor pass so we can get an emissions test? And that's where Mode 6 comes in really handy, looking at those reports, because you can see it's failed a bunch of times for O2 sensor faults, but not enough to trigger a code, but it won't pass the monitor because there's problems. So that's where it really does come in handy. somebody actually, Will Flores Riviera, and he recommends for a TPMS tool for relearn and programming, ATEQ. Let me see. Let me get TPMS. If for some reason, this company right here is who I recommend. This is who I use. For some reason, my background screwed up, so we'll fix that. This is the company. The product I use is, I use the VT57 right here. They're pretty much one of the OE manufacturers for pretty much every OEM manufacturer's tools. It is also, I believe, Snap-on's tool as well. The other one is Bartek. I personally prefer the ATEC to Bartek, but you know, those would be my preferences, simply because I have experience with both the Autel and the ATEC. The ATEC is what I currently use. I find it much more reliable. The Autel is problematic with certain sensors. Like, it would not program Honda OEM sensors. So take that for what it's worth. I used an Autel for a long time, other than programming. Programming was done via scan tool. But yeah, that's what I use. ISO, what's the advantage of a Pico as opposed to other lab scopes? Pico, I'm going to go this way. Let me move the microphone a little closer. I'm going to go between ATS, Pico, Snap-on, and Hanatech. I'm going to mainly differentiate between those three. The Hanatech is the lower end, the cheaper. The sample size, the refresh rate, and that kind of stuff is nowhere near as high as the Pico. The software is kind of a sort of, let's just say, Chinese copy of it. So there's issues there depending on what interface you buy it with. Like, if you do, that's what they launch, and the Autel scopes is Hanatech. They have their own software that it runs through, not Hanatech software, but it's probably based on that software. But the perfectly usable scope. The problem is a scope measures voltage over time, and the granularity of the sample rate of a Hanatech is going to be a lot lower than a Pico or an ATS. Snap-on is in the middle. Snap-on's sample rate is higher than the Hanatech, but not as high as the Pico. The highest sample rate is actually ATS. If I'm, my facts are right, I'm going by memory here. But the Pico and the ATS are probably the industry standards for scopes. The biggest difference between them is, obviously, ATS has 8-channel scopes that are full 8-channel scopes. Pico has an 8-channel scope, but it is a repurposed lab type scope, not an automotive scope. So it has some lower sample rates than the automotive scope and stuff like that. So, ATS does have the advantage in having a full 8-channel scope. They've got some features in their software that Pico doesn't have. I believe Pico has a couple features in their software that ATS doesn't have, but when it comes down to it, it's the hardware and the software. That's the most important things. All four of the scopes I talked about, for 90% of the technicians out there, will work great. The Snap-on runs into problems with zooming. The Pico, you do a long time base and then you can zoom in. Whereas the Snap-on, you can only get your capture and zoom out. And after using the Pico scope, that is a huge difference between the two. Because you can just do a long capture the fault, and then zoom in on it repeatedly. I use a touchscreen. That's why I'm doing it like that. But that's the advantage. All 4 of them are 100% usable. It's just the sample rate and the accessories and just the general software. So all of them will work fine. But I definitely prefer the Pico scope just because I'm most familiar with the Pico scope software. After that, I'm definitely very familiar with Snap-on, and the Hanatech stuff is 100% usable. All of them will get the job done for, like I said, 90% of what a technician needs. But especially when you're doing very granular, hard diagnostics, Pico and ATS definitely come above everybody else. Existential D, copper or aluminum anti-seize, both. I have copper for, if I'm reusing an O2 sensor, I'll use copper. For everything else, I use anti-seize when I'm doing something that needs anti-seize. But I have backup sensors in the 2014 bumper harness connectors difference. Guessing it's a rear bumper then. You might be able to just swap the sensors over depending on the size of them. I don't know. I don't know if you're are usable or whatever. Again, I don't think even the rear harness for the bumper, I think, plugs in right above the trailer hitch if there is one. So I don't think that's going to be a problem either. So it should be plug and play. Just make sure the junkyard doesn't cut it. Go back up. Is the Throttle 3 worth it, or the Torque 5 just as good? Software is identical. There is no difference in any of the launch pro tools. The difference is obviously whether you get the J-Box or any of that kind of stuff. I did do a video comparing all the launch tools, so you might want to check that out, where I go into very in-depth about the differences between the various product lines. But they're all, the software-wise is all the same, and those two tools will do anything the other tool will do except Throttle 3. Yeah, I think they'll do everything. Let me close that out. Sorry, Bartek was trying to sell me something. D. Antoine, do you think Autel scanners are the best money-wise compared to truck scanners? I've shifted my view towards launch. Just because, especially Autel scan tools, I've had problems with battery life and tablet issues. Launch uses Lenovo tablets. So Autels are definitely a very viable tool. My last Autel, you literally can't buy the right battery for it. They no longer make it. And that's one of the problems with Autel is they cycle products out and they basically no longer support it. So, Devin, I know you like IDS on Ford. Yes, I do. Have you used the new FDRS software so far? I prefer it. No, I have not. Mobile guys. Um, the problem with programming in-house is it's so tedious and hard to maintain for anybody. You know, understanding, oh, I gotta, perfect example is BMW. Oh, simple programming. Okay. Launch idea, launch ISTA. Oh, I got to update. That's an hour. Just standing around. Not standing around, but you can't do what you want to do because ISTA's updating and cycling, when you're an independent guy, you might go 6 months without touching that company's product as far as programming. So just use mobile guys. Porch Monkey have a Toyota Avalon I'm also working on, has cam sensor voltage issue, entire bank 2 voltage issue, as well as the cooling system out. However, the charging system cannot get the battery up to operating voltage. Until you get the charging system fixed, I would not work on the cam sensor voltage codes or anything like that, because you'd be surprised how many things improper voltage can cause to a car, or improper ground, etc., etc. Me, Blake, Bartek is no longer working for many TPMS. Okay. Like I said, I got an ATEC, so. Daniel, I'm guessing that is autocorrect. I don't think that's how you say Pine Hollow Diagnostics on the GMC XUV. Very complicated. Yes, that is a very complicated system. Don't know why anybody bought those pieces of crap. The cars, my wife owned a Trailblazer EXT. She loved that truck. But that, I don't understand why people buy those weird sunroof thing modules. You have to program the radio to get the rear window module to work. Sounds about right. On those models, a lot of stuff goes through the radio. Have to choose Autel or Snap-on? Autel. That's easy. You want to do what? It's easy, Autel. Snap-on has left me stranded so many times, it's not even a question. Their latest will not work with a 2003 SC430. I don't know. I haven't that old. Wouldn't it be would that one be programmed? I don't know. I don't know on that one. Daniel BC, Dad's question. How much does it cost to get a factory GM scan tool off of eBay? Every single one on eBay is going to be a fake. It's going to be a clone. They stopped making Tech 2s a very long time ago. They don't produce any new ones. Every one on eBay is going to be fake. So the only way to get a actual factory Tech 2 is to find a technician that wants to sell it, that bought it from Vitronics or Bosch. That's it. The only way you're getting a legitimate Tech 2 is to buy somebody that bought it years ago. With that said, the Tech 2 is no longer the factory tool. It is now GDS2, which is a subscription based, which isn't that expensive. And some caveats: you need, MDI 2 or whatever the current interface is now to access all the features. But you can do most of the things with a JBox. But yeah, that scan tool is long dead now. It was one of my favorite handhelds, but yeah, it died. They don't make that anymore. And what it was is they would be the same factory that would make them for Vitronics or Bosch. Vitronics got bought by Bosch. They would basically take the, the plans for it and make new ones using cheaper components, bootleg software, and there will be problems. Really don't want to program through a Tech 2 that's a clone. It will not go well. Let's see. I love when Dad's garage diagnostic specialist. Yeah, it's extremely complicated, stupid system. Not one of GM's best ideas. Nickel Anti-Seize only game in town now. Me Blake, Forescan for Ford is free. Most of the stuff I deal with is a little more than what Forescan can do. Stronger than Bigfoot. What's your general diagnostic process you follow just in general? I know every situation is different. Pull the car in, scan it for codes, get an idea what I'm dealing with. Even if there's, the service writer scanned it, I'm going to do a full system scan. Every car that comes in for any sort of diagnostic is getting a full system scan. If it's old enough that it doesn't have a full system scan, I'm individually going to all the major modules and scanning them. Once I understand what the code is for, like if it's VVT, after I see a VVT code, I'm gonna shut the car off, pop the hood, check the oil. I got standard operating procedures for a lot of check engine lights. One of the reasons why I pull a car in first, don't go on a test drive first with a diagnostic, simply because you don't know what you got. I mean, you could be, looking at a check engine light for a thermostat code and there's no coolant in it. You could be looking at a VVT code because there's no oil in it. So standard operating procedures, pull it in, do a full code scan, and then kind of get my plan from there. But after that, the process is going to entirely depend on what kind of code it is. Thermostat code. I'm going to check for coolant. First thing. Now, if the car comes in and it's like been sitting overnight and I got a thermostat code, I check coolant because it's not warmed up yet. I'm going to do it. And I got the coolant system's full. I'm going to let it idle and watch the coolant temperature. See if the thermostat's actually working. 99% of the time it's the thermostat, but you still want to check. I'm going to do what says for FDRS sucks. IDS was perfect, but Ford will be Ford. Yeah. Daniel, good luck with that. MDI you can buy new from GM, or any of the companies that sell diagnostic equipment. MDI 2, by the way, you don't want the MDI 1. Smokey, been working for Volkswagen for 6 years. We finally got to a point where it takes days to fix an oil level light on these diesels. Oh, that sucks. RSX 123, Snap-on is good on American cars. That's really what it's for. And Asian, European stuff, no, I disagree. It's gotten just as bad on domestics. It's when you can't do pretty generic functions on Chrysler products. It's not that good. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, me, Blake, I was just wondering about, I don't remember if that car went through any sort of relearn, or if it was that generation would be maybe cross pins or something like that, but I don't remember. Yes, you can use Win 2 with J2 2 buggy and a Stormy Young, what about OTC scan tools? I would put Bosch OTC as in the same realm of as Snap-on. They're going to leave you hanging on a lot of stuff until the OTC reps changed 4 times, and I don't know who my rep is for OTC. I don't have a currently updated Bosch or OTC tool, but generally they were updating it pretty regularly. They were increasing the features, but it's not going to be at the level of Autel, Launch, or any of those kind of companies. They're decent, but truth be told, the Snap-on has better graphing, but otherwise, function-wise, they're about the same. Let's see. Daniel, GM loves to break grounds. Yes, they do. Andrew Watson, MaxiScope is a Hanatech scope. It's an entirely usable scope. I would tell you get new leads for it. Go to AES Wave and get new scope leads for them. The stock Hanatech leads are junk. They're very noisy. You'll get a lot of interference. So go to AES Wave, get new leads for it. Other than that, good usable scope. You'll be able to diagnose a lot of cars. Stronger than Bigfoot. Thank you. I appreciate that. He said, excellent answer in your diag process. Daniel BC, okay. Here parts are in short supply. Yeah, it's cycling back to that. Good parts are really getting hard to find. Emilio G, what's a good tool to read CVT temperature? I think anyone that goes into the transmission module should be able to read transmission temp. So any complete powertrain scan tool will work. So any of the more pro launch tools, many of the more $500-700 kind of price range will be able to read CVT temperatures. The launch CR1234, whatever it is, will be able to do that. It has transmission PIDs, so you'll get CVT temperatures, and they're not that expensive. So how do you feel about OEM diag flowcharts? Dude, I freaking hate them. They're stupid. Chrysler. Oh, disconnect PCM. Check for resistance. Okay, what the hell is that going to tell me? Resistance of the wire. Oh, let me waste my time doing that. Oh, I can hook a scope to one end or the other and get the signal output. Oh, that's a lot easier and more effective than trying to, back probe a PCM connector and a connector across the car. But yeah, no, it's one of the things I truly do love about Identifix, not because of the silver bullet stuff, but they do have a lot of really talented people that write really excellent testing procedures for stuff that I may not be as familiar with, systems I may not be familiar with, and that's where it really is awesome. Daniel, yes, I remember the SSR. It's based on a Trailblazer. Basic diagnostics are real simple trouble codes, Daniel. O2 sensor, heater, fault code, thermostat code. Basically, it's fault code, simple testing to diagnose, not complex like diagnosing a, no communication fault or something like that. It's just easy diagnostics. Me blank, Snap-on doesn't have module mapping. I think module mapping is essential. Dude, every freaking time I got a no communication, I love the, as you call it, module mapping. I love to be able to pull up and know what modules. Don't trust it 100% because they may not be in correct order, but it's so awesome to plug into a vehicle and see, oh, that network's the one that's not communicating, not this network. I love topology. Yes, absolutely love that nowadays. For the amount of networks we've got, we need topology. Jonathan Campos, would you recommend a Snap-on scan tool to a beginner tech if they're cheap? By cheap, I mean less than $2,000. Yeah. If you can get a good scan tool that's updated to current and it's a really good tool for graphing. As far as aftermarket tools, Snap-on still has the best PID graphing of anybody. There's a lot of hand-holding stuff in a Snap-on scan tool that will help you as well. Launch and Autel may not have the procedure in the scan tool to how to do a special procedure, where a Snap-on generally will. May not work, but it'll tell you how to do it. But, so yeah, I don't hate on Snap-on. They're just so too expensive for what they are nowadays, and what they offer the technician is not enough for what they cost. Why do the Chevrolet 4-cylinder turbos blow in turbos all the time? Really small engine, putting out a lot of power. Heat, lack of maintenance. One of the bigger things with every car, and unfortunately for a lot of makes and models, their perceived vehicles are, junk. The 2.4 in the Equinox is considered a horrible engine because, they used to have all consumption issues, but they, timing chains at 100K, change the oil. Surprising how well those engines live if you just change the oil. Just saying. But it's a combination of things. These smaller and smaller engines are just so hard to keep alive for all manufacturers, not just General Motors. RSX Snap-on is really missing a lot of stuff. It's pathetic that you have to buy the top end Snap-on scanner just to get wireless. Yeah. I mean, the only thing they have left to offer is their financing and added features. And the problem is $14,000 for a Snap-on, Zeus is just idiotic. When you can literally buy a laptop, a Pico, a Launch, and an OEM scan tool that, for the most common vehicle you work on, pay the subscription to that, pay the update for the Launch, and still be cheaper than the Snap-on and have better equipment. But yeah, that's because that's all they have. All they can do is set you up to the next tier. Oh, you want wireless? We're going to have to go to the Zeus. Or, whatever. Dad's Garage Diagnostic Specialist. OEM flow charts will eventually lead you to the problem, but most of the time, very inefficiently. Warranty definitely won't pay enough diag to follow all the steps. Oh God, no. I will disagree with you to some extent. There has been some flow charts, and I can't remember off the top of my head, that absolutely will not get you to the right results. Replacing a PCM is one example. And I'd like to tell you what it was, and I read the flow chart, went to Identifix, and go, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And then tested what they said, and it was what they said. I don't remember what that was, but I think the end of the flow chart, it was ECM or loop back and retest. It was just some of their Chrysler flow charts are garbage. Andrew Watson, any experience on programming Euros with Autel software? It's third party, stealing from cloud type services. Yes, it is bootleg software. I've only done it once, and that was a F-body car. The fuel pump module needed to be programmed. It was like, we got to get this car done. We can't get the programming guys in, and we needed it done. And I had just gotten my new Autel, programmed it. It came back later for a different issue, and I had ISTA going at that point and checked the software. It immediately wanted me to upgrade because the software was severely out of date. That's one of the caveats with programming with an Autel or anything like that, is the software might be considerably out of date. So I would not be programming with an Autel if you're trying to fix a TSB, because you may not be updating. You may be backtracking the software, but it's limited. RSX, yeah, my launch Diagun is portable and does diesel regen, tons of stuff. Snap-on doesn't. Yep. I mean, I can't, I stand on that. Yeah, no, it's why I don't recommend Snap-on at all. It's really not too much money for not enough what it does. Dad's Garage, in my experience, Chevy turbos fail due to lack of maintenance and cheap oil. Yep. Lack of maintenance. Gonna do what? Snap-on guy says dealership should pay for the Zeus, and I want and need any advice in helping them understand why I need the equipment. Are you use cars? That's going to be where you're going to push it. If you're wanting a Zeus to work on the factory stuff, they're not going to buy that ever. They're just not. But if you're used cars and you don't have proper information and a proper scan tool, they need to pony up and get the used car department to buy it for the shop. Yeah, Paulo, Snap-on scanners are good, and the updates are super expensive. Yes. Yes, and they get you a lot. Daniel, where can I learn basic diagnostics? Scanner Danner has his entire class on YouTube, or not. No, I think he put that on premium. But you can literally take his advanced electronic diagnostics class, which is basically the step above basic electrical, on Scanner Danner Premium. Not a sponsor. That probably be the best place to go, is just to pay his monthly fee, take those classes, and you'll be able to learn a crap ton. Me Blake's lawnmower engines need turbo, or better yet, supercharged, because they wouldn't just blow up. Funny story, I had a lawnmower blow up literally behind my back. I was mowing my lawn and it went boom. Had oil from the back of my head all the way down to my butt. Engine literally blew apart. I wasn't hurt, just oily. Stoic Steel, the snap-on scanner is kind of limited without SureTrack. And don't get me started on having to link ProDemand to access 2018 vehicles. ProDemand? Don't you mean AutoAuth.com? It's unfortunately a caveat of being in this business is now stupid gateway modules. I hate it. It's stupid. It's not going to prevent anything. It's just going to restrict, but you know, $50 a year for AutoAuth for 5 scan tools isn't bad. So, me Blake, absolutely the oil feed tube absolutely has to be clean. No, it needs to be replaced. Because remember, any bit of debris is a place for new accumulation to start. Just replace that oil feed tube. I'm sorry, I don't reuse. Every turbo I do gets written up for new turbo pressure line and return lines. And the Cruise's return line breaks, so it's getting one of those. That's why. Pine Hollow Diagnostics. Back up here. ISO, the more experience I've gained, the more I've seen every manufacturer burning oil. It's insane. Extended oil changes on 0W20. They're setting up stretch time and chains and misfires. Yes, all for a couple percentage points of mileage. I don't currently work on diesels, but I have in the past. ISO, you want to learn to diagnose by thinking out of the box? Do not work for the dealer. No. Apollo 2018 and up Chrysler scan tool requirements is the scan tool has to be updated, has to have internet access, and has to have a active subscription to AutoAuth.com, AutoAuth.com, to unlock a gateway module. It is basically a gateway module in between the DLC and the rest of the vehicle's networks, and you have to unlock it to be able to diagnose those cars. To clear codes, you have to unlock it. It's stupid. It's for theft and other BS reasons. I hate it. Sucks when you're trying to do a CAN diagnostic on those cars because you can't go through the DLC because you have a gateway module in the way. So you have to go to their stupid communication brick, Chrysler products, and it sucks. But that's why. ISO, replace PCM. I'm looking at you, Honda. No, it's replace PCM with known good. I hated that. You'd go through this is going back many years, but you go through a trouble tree with Honda and it'd be half the steps replaced with known good. And you get to the end and it'd be replace PCM with known good. And then if that didn't fix it, repeat. Yeah, that's stupid. You want to do what? Never condemn a module? I've condemned many modules. If they're bad, they're bad. Burnt coil drivers. Literally smells like burnt electronics. Nature, good evening. Thoughts on the UAW strike? I don't like getting into political stuff. The UAW caused a lot of their own problems that they're, moving manufacturing to right to work states specifically because of the UAW, demanding more and more and more and more for guys putting, a fender on a car and making $100,000 and working six hours a day. But anyway, I digress. Charles, the Zeus's old schools is plus in new school as far as the snap-on goes. All of our 67 diesels, you'll be able to do relative compression test up without hooking up all the probes. Doesn't do the computer. Dad's diagnostic specialist. In my experience, modules don't just die on their own. They are damaged by something else. Depends on the car. BMW and Volvo's coil drivers will burn out. Has nothing to do with the coil. The driver will burn out and then fry the coil. It's not the other way around. Actually, Super Mario just answered this question in a Facebook group, because the guy was going the backwards. The coil burned out the driver and the PCM, and it's the other way around. The driver burned out and killed the coil. But there's a lot of reasons why a coil why a module goes bad. But a lot of times there's a reason something went bad. As far as a module, but there are cases where it's the module that goes bad, not the other way around. System is kind of badass. It's cool. The Zeus system is very cool. It's just so expensive. Well, Andrew Watson, I got a good one. Be careful with PATs on 2007 and newer Fords. They require to be a licensed and bonded, insured, etc. locksmith license. They require an LSID. Yes, they do. Andrew Watson, that's why I use mobile diagnostic guys, because they're covered under their company. But yes, you have to have an LSID. So a lot of newer vehicles are doing a lot of stuff behind LSID and gateway nodules and stuff like that. Has to be registered on the website with a login and password and program keys. Yep. Charles, he's right. Follow his instructions. Learn how to diagnose vehicles correctly instead of reading codes, changing parts. That pisses me off. Next Wednesday's video will be about that kind of stuff. Kind of little rant going on, because charging people twice, having to charge somebody a second time to diagnose the car right pisses me off. Do what? More interested in the capability to show customers what I see and why I need to perform the repair. Large dealerships only train techs with poor service writers. That's saying it nicely. There's some really talented service writers in dealerships, but your mileage will vary. Service writers go across the board on everything, so... Daniel, what is the hardest job to do on a Pontiac Grand Prix or Chevy Impala SS with the factory V8? The front wheel drive or the rear wheel drive Impala? Because if it's a front wheel drive, everything sucks on the V8s. Daniel, that was a Trailblazer. Went through the oil pan. Extremely common practice. BMW on their all their all-wheel drive cars and SUVs do that. It's not uncommon. But yeah, it was a Trailblazer. The Colorado. But yeah, Dad's diagnostic specialist was right. Oh, it's probably linked to your shops. Um, it might be through a pro demand. They might be reselling it. I don't know. I haven't done Mitchell or whatever, but yeah, you have to be linked and log in, etc. Daniel, I work for an engineer. Engineers' jobs are not as easy as you need to put this here. It's a lot of other factors. The serviceability is not even a concern for them at all. It's manufacturing costs. They don't care how hard it is to service anything. They just care about how hard and how fast can we manufacture this. And that's about it. ISO, what brand have you condemned modules the most? Do you have to anything to do you have to verify it had input and output, input but no output? Probably modules themselves, probably Chrysler products, but not any particular module. Like I've probably put 20 four-wheel drive modules in Jeep Grand Cherokees for service four-wheel drive messages on the dash. Pretty easy diag, powers, grounds, communication, signal. Usually have no communication, or it's in a bathtub, literally full of water. The first one I diagnosed was full of water. Probably the most common has been the N20 with the eccentric shaft motor, where the eccentric shaft would seize up because of lack of maintenance and burn out the driver in the PCM. It's 12-volt driver, direct power from the ECM. Great idea, not fused. That's probably the most common single module is those ECMs, because the literally the ECM 12-volt power to a high amp motor that actuates the intake valve lift profiles. But that's one that definitely that's the most common single module. Chrysler is probably the most common where I've put in modules. Trailblazer, yeah. Daniel, you are a fountain of knowledge about General Motors products. Yeah, it probably links it probably links your to that auto auth site somehow. I don't know. I've had my own auto auth account for years. In fact, for the longest time, I was the only one in the shop that could clear 2018 fault codes on Chrysler products in the old shop. Yeah. Dad's garage, 90s Ford PCMs, 90s. I was, back in that generation, it was probably GM for me, Dad's. Back then, I saw a lot of GM modules go bad, PCMs in general. But I've forgotten about them. I didn't do a whole lot of Chrysler stuff back then. No Asian, but a lot of GM stuff. So less so with Fords for some reason. But I know they were common. You gonna do what? Labor operations for custom repair. What do you feel is more Um, I think you should, current labor times at dealerships need to be, doubled, because that's how bad the times suck. But anyway, Dad's Garage, Allison TCMs. I haven't worked on Allison's in a very long time. Didn't work on much Allison stuff when I was at a fleet shop. So, I'm sure they do fail. Stoic Seal. Most common modules I replace is the fuel pump driver module on F-150 Chevys. I've replaced a few of them, but we don't have, I haven't seen any rusted ones down here. I've seen a few Ford rusted modules, but not a lot of GM for some reason. Corrosion, yeah. I just haven't seen a lot of Chevy trucks with corrosion to have them give me problems. Dad's Garage, the FPCM are common on both Ford and GM. Bad mounting location above the spare tire. Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad idea. And they have not fixed it. RSX, how do you charge Diagnostic? I don't care for getting 1 hour. 1 hour for basic diagnostics, an hour and a half for evap smoke testing, 2 hours minimum for a communication fault problem. So whether it's you go out there, inspect the vehicle, it's no communication to the ECM or ABS module or anything like that, automatic 2 hours. Standard hour is fine for, thermostat code, O2 sensor code, stuff like that. But once it gets into, like throttle body codes where, it's setting a intermittent TPS signal loss or something like that, that's going to go towards the 2 hours. Oh yeah, Dad's Garage. The oh god days. Warren Fowler, are you going to Powertrain Expo 2023? No. No, the only place I'm going this year is the UK. The trip I've put off for since COVID, my daughter's high school graduation trip to the UK. We're finally doing it this year. So that's the only place I'm going this year is the UK. So that'll be the end of this year. But no trade shows or anything like that. Lucas, fastest way to diag diesel spark plugs? Pretty easy. Ain't got none. If you're talking about glow plugs, we could talk about that. Because those are generally pretty easy. Dad's Garage. Today's the most complex diagnostics on GMs involve communication faults on gateway isolated modules, software flaws with nothing physically wrong with the vehicle. Cheers. Yes. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I got so much hell in the comments. I did a video that got a bunch of views about, so you want to be a diagnostic guy, and I talked about replacing the rear harness on a Colorado. Because somewhere in that harness was a broken wire. And rather than trace it down, cut open the harness, try to find the single break and the 12 others that were probably broke right next to it, or a couple $100 harness, and they gave me hell in the comments about not fixing the wires. Like, no, it's available. I have to pull it out to fix it or find the problem anyway. Why not just replace it if it's available? Like, it was there the next day or 2 days later, something like that. William Sodders, who do you like best for service information? Day-to-day car repair, all data. For diagnostics, Identifix. Like I was talking about earlier, they've got a lot of smart people there that do a lot of tests that are outside of the service trouble tree, and they can point you in a really good direction for certain codes. So those are my go-tos. All data for service information for repairing a car, Identifix for the diagnostic side of it. ADAS safety systems can be a challenge too. I've heard. Daniel, hell if I know why they put the fuel pump module underneath the spare tire. I don't know. Ford did it too. Yeah. I don't know whether Lucas was being funny or not, dads. Yeah, we could talk about diagnosing glow plugs is relatively easy. Diagnosing diesel spark plugs, they don't exist. ADAS is dangerous, high liability for ADAS. If you don't do something exactly right, somebody could seriously get hurt. Andrew Watson, you can have a shop that specifically specializes in ADAS, especially on Euro and Japanese. Yeah. Matt Fanslow, the shop he works for, they have a dedicated building for ADAS, and it's been a huge moneymaker for him. Yeah, ISO, it sucks. Bitching about, warranty pay, it does suck. Yeah, Andrew, yeah, that's very true. Most shops do not have the actual physical room for ADAS. I got a lot of comments about that at the old shop, and literally the only place to do it was in the lower shop, in the open part of the shop, and where every car pulls in, and shut down that shop while you do an ADAS. Wasn't worth it. Stoic Seal, yeah, it's not worth it trying to repair a harness that you can get. It's just not. And the thing is like, if it's already breaking, it's gonna break worse or more wherever the break is. There's gonna be more broken wires, and if you don't happen to find that one extra wire that's breaking, and it breaks 2 days after you sent the vehicle out, you're doing it for free. So just replace the harness. What's more annoying, stupid, annoying, ADAS or idle stop systems? LOL. Well, I hate both. Driving them and repairing them. I haven't done ADAS, but I've done a bunch with start-stop systems. God, I freaking hate that. I hate it on my truck. Luckily, air conditioning, it generally doesn't shut off, and I'm in Georgia, so generally air conditioning's on. But yeah, it's I hate it. It's stupid. ADAS can be really annoying to drive the car. Shutting off is just kind of annoying, but driving an ADAS car can be incredibly annoying. Like late model Tahoes, you pull them into the shop, and the seat's vibrating because you're pulling between the two posts. Or the Jeep Grand Cherokees, where you'd go to back it out of the shop a little too fast, and it'd slam on the brakes because it detects the posts for the two post lifts, stuff like that. Yeah, me, Blake. It can be incredibly dangerous. It's crap ton of liability. Daniel, battery draws can send you into some weird and wild places, man. Anything from corrosion in a fuse box from a bad window replacement to a module in the back that stays awake, or Volvo had a problem with, they called it babbling modules. Babbling modules. That was the service information. The fix was reflash the entire car and hope it fixed it. But literally, that was the service information literally called it babbling modules. The modules would intermittently wake up and talk to each other and then go back to sleep. Have fun diagnosing that. RSX 123. Electric cars are dangerous to work on. I was working on one, and when I was done, I found a broken and completely exposed 400 volt line near where I was working. It was live because I had the car on for testing. Do you know where your shop's Hoop of Life is? I don't know what the actual name for it is, but it's literally a circle on a pole that you're supposed to yank somebody off of an electric car if they're getting electrocuted. Required equipment for every dealership that does any sort of diagnostic on or work on electric cars. Dad's garage. One of my first great diags was in-out park brakes and the park lamp fuse blowing every time. It was caused by the DVD player under the seat being shorted on the illumination circuit. Nissan Quest. Oh, sounds about right. Daniel, do you think the law applies to the government? No. Stoke Steel. Volvo modules have a Twitter addiction. LOL. Shepherd's hook. Yeah. It's sheep's hook. I knew there was a funky name for it. I just couldn't remember right off the top of my head. Andrew Watson, I could have a field day on recent case studies I've had recently. Michael Schumacher, we have one at the Dodge dealer I work at, I would hope, if you're working on hybrids or electrics. Oh, RSX, yeah. No, they're pulling your body off. Yeah, exactly. They're just stopping the smell. I mean, let's be honest. That's pretty much. Dad's garage. Do you remember the horrible GM hybrids? Oh God. Oh, I hated those cars. Those hybrid pickups and Tahoes and whatever. Hated those. First one I worked on was for the president or vice president of Coca-Cola. Basic maintenance, nothing real major, but surprising how heavy that Tahoe was. It was bulletproof. We had a contract to work on Coca-Cola's vehicles. And apparently there was a lot of hardware in that car too, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So... Of course, warranty pays for somebody to stand there with it while you work on it. LOL. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, they want you to use that hook to pull them off so they can send somebody else in there to fix that car. Stoic Steel. When are EV and hybrid tech going to get Highline worker pay? I don't know. I mean, supposedly some of the full electric companies pay well, but I don't know. So you need to get security clearances, a lot of them, before you can even come near the president's car. Because they don't let just anybody work on that stuff. But yeah, no, it was interesting working on some of those executives' cars. Like, who's interested in kidnapping a vice president of Coca-Cola? What's the point of it other than trying to extort some money from them? You know. Of course, at that point, we had a governor that would run around, turn the lights on, and just to avoid traffic. But that was a few years ago. Or no, I'm sorry, Atlanta mayor. So anyway. So what other questions we got? On your old stuff, Daniel, I doubt you could get that from the dealership, maybe, but I doubt it. Pepsi is planning the kidnapping. GPS sensor, and it's $130 on eBay. I don't know. I'd see it. Probably about what it's going to cost from the dealer. Stoic Steel. Heard the presidential limo has a tuned and deleted Duramax in it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it's got in it. Devin McCowan, I would like to know the process of who gets to maintain the presidential limo. I believe they are private contractors, and they have like a bunch of them. I think it's contracted with the company that builds them for the president, for the Secret Service, technically. I love black Chevy SUVs. RSX, like I said, I believe it's the company that builds them for them, but don't quote me on that. I don't know. That's a lot above my pay grade. Who works on the president's SUV? I don't know. All right, we got any more questions before I head out of here? Yeah, I mean that's what I want to say. I saw like how it's made or something like that, where they were talking about that kind of stuff or something like that, or Air Force One. I don't remember. Yeah, ISO. Yeah, they don't want how they're made to get out. I don't think it was like it wasn't how the car was made. I don't think it was how it was made, but it was like some show on presidential security or something like that. I forget, but I don't know. I mean, how do you get rid of nick sickness when smoking a big fat cigar? Cigars generally have very low nicotine, and you don't inhale. So um, So generally, unless you're smoking something really strong, you don't get a lot of nicotine. You have to remember, the tobacco is fermented for 3 to 6 years on average. So there's not a lot of nicotine in it. It's just flavor, and that's it. It's just a kind of meditation thing more than anything else. Andrew, where is he from? Georgia's big. Coke went down the wrong way. Oh. All right, any more questions? If we don't got any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Get ready to do, my normal thing. I drink water. Actually, Stoic Steel, if you actually do get nicotine sickness, sugar is actually the best cure for nicotine sickness. That nausea feel, put a little honey or sugar on your tongue, it'll get rid of it. Not water. Tifton Moultrie's not my neck of the woods, Bubba. Might be from Georgia. Paulo, I live on coffee and Coke, so Coke Zero, but no. All right, Devin. Thanks again. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.